Hello, I'm live. I'm here on indietrix once again to talk to you about movies, which seems kind of like a strange thing to talk about in this very strange time we're in. So, but there you have it. That's what's going on. I've got a little list of stuff that I wanted to talk about today that we can cover. But I'm also conscious that it's quite a difficult time for everyone. Even if you're not directly affected by coronavirus, you're obviously dealing with lockdowns, which I think are basically international now. I think basically everyone's got them. In the UK, we just locked down properly. The government's going to actually start stopping people going out, which is a good thing, I think, but a difficult thing, obviously, to deal with. So I also don't want to make this super long and sad for people to listen to and watch to. I know there's enough COVID stuff to kind of be discussing. So I wanted to talk about movies in a more general way, and we'll also discuss some possible future things we might do on stream. If that's something that people are interested in doing, I'm interested in doing more streams for this time, just because I'm getting kind of bored. I've been stuck in my flat for 2 weeks already. So it would be really nice to just have some more hangouts and kind of get to know you more as a community and as people as well. I also have some really dank memes that I'm going to be sharing. There's going to be stuff like this. This is a really good one. This is my you have to stay inside gang, just do it. And then I also have some stuff that I didn't make. So things like this crazy little character here. I don't know if you know about this guy. He's from a small independent film. Not many people have seen it, but that's your main man, Mr. Green. He's back. Finally getting his own standalone movie in the MCU, which is really nice to see. And this will be a more casual stream as well. This won't be kind of a highly presented type thing. The weird side effect of being a content creator during this difficult time is that basically I'm kind of struggling with it too sometimes. So I'm trying to take it chill, take a chill time now, and kind of think about how we could just have fun together instead of worrying so much all the time. Do let me know if there's any issues in the stream as well. If there's anything that's kind of going wrong in terms of any visual stuff or any audio problems. If you notice things like this happening, that's absolutely intentional, and I will be occasionally just dropping in some really dank stuff like that in the meantime. I'm just going to share this on Twitter so that people know that we're out and about. How's everyone doing tonight, by the way? How are we all getting on? I wonder if you're all getting this content in standard definition, as YouTube was saying it was going to do across Europe, probably in America now as well, I would have thought. Yeah, kind of a strange thing. I spent so long kind of trying to get really crisp HD and 4K stuff out, and now I can't share it with you guys. But that's fine. I mean, you one day will be able to see that stuff, so I'm not too worried about it. It's a pretty minor thing that's happening right now. Hi, Movie Radar. How you doing? Thanks for checking in on the stream. Bit of a weird thing to pick up on. I wonder if you've watched my other videos and not just watching the streams. Just haven't seen a stream yet. Yeah, I can't imagine if like a really casual stream was your first thing, kind of like with a content creator. It'd be kind of a strange place to start, but perfectly acceptable. Please hang out. Yeah, I'm also conscious that I haven't put out videos since like the Color Out of Space, which is probably about the time when people started pulling stuff from cinema schedules. Yeah, that's a nice segue actually. Segue? Yeah. Yeah, I haven't posted since February the 28th. Wow, almost a month ago. That's a nice segue into talking about kind of movies. Yeah, movies is what I talk about generally, obviously, but we're in a kind of weird situation because of the pandemic. Movies aren't coming out in cinemas because all cinemas are shut, basically. But if they were open, people wouldn't go to them. They'd probably be legally stopped from going to them. So we're kind of in this weird space where a lot of big movies have either postponed themselves or in even rarer cases have put themselves online. Movies like Bond was the first one to do this, and then like Mulan has done it, and it looks like the DC kind of upcoming films like Wonder Woman might have to push back as well. Black Widow and the MCU stuff is also pushed back. So it's this odd time to be someone who's interested in films because the way they're typically distributed is changing, and in a historic way, really. This is really without precedent, and oh god, I've just become one of those people who says unprecedented, haven't I? That like endless use of that in critical discussion at the moment. The weird thing about the time that we're at now is that this is sort of unprecedented, but also weirdly something that cinema has actually dealt with before. Because right when movies were kind of a juvenile art form, when they'd barely been around for a while, that's when the Spanish flu became a problem, which obviously was a massive worldwide issue, but also one that was kind of different to now because the disease was different and modeled differently, and also the world wasn't as interconnected as it is now. So cinema already had to deal with the lockdown issues around the Spanish flu, and now is kind of back in that situation again, but 100 years down the line and sort of much more developed and interrelated. The WW84 has been moved to August. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Movie Raid, I hope you're doing well in lockdown. I've been in lockdown for 2 weeks now. I was accidentally sort of locked down earlier on because my girlfriend had like a cold, and then we both got food poisoning, so we were kind of stuck for a little bit, and now that's become a permanent thing. So I feel like I'm a week further down the crazy line than everyone else. Yeah, so the interesting thing about the movies kind of being cancelled or pushed back, at least, is that you're starting to see differences in how those films' decisions are made. So Bond obviously has been pushed back instead of being released early, and some movies that are already out have had the deep misfortune of coming out just before the shutdown started, have kind of released themselves early on demand. So Onward has started doing that. It's on Disney Plus, I think, this week, and then Invisible Man, most notably, I think, and also The Hunt and Birds of Prey have both become available on demand. I don't know if Birds of Prey has become available yet, but it's certainly going to release early. So all of this stuff is kind of worrying for cinema owners in some ways because it affects the movie window. If you don't know much about movie distribution, you might have not have heard about it before, but basically the way that cinemas can make their money, can keep their audience, is to have a window between when the movie is in cinemas and then when it starts to go out to what was originally home video and is now streaming, VOD, and then streaming eventually after that, or TV sales. And that's been around for forever. It used to be very long, and that window has slowly gotten shorter and shorter. And now it's not uncommon to see a film come out and then 3 months later be available either on a VOD platform, like Amazon Prime does this a lot because they produce their own films, or in kind of supermarkets in a physical retail situation as well, on DVD. I remember when I was a kid and that would take like 6 months to a year. 6 months would be a short time, and now it's as short, sometimes as 3 months or even shorter, if you're talking about going straight to VOD. I remember The Big Sick came out really soon after, as did another Amazon Studios this year, The Aeronauts, which is currently on Amazon Prime. So you've got movies like The Invisible Man, which actually is the last film that I saw in the cinema. I saw it about a week after after the release of Color Out of Space, but I just didn't get around to reviewing it before everything went kind of weird. And it's an interesting thing because a lot of cinemas are worried about losing their window and therefore losing people kind of coming to see movies in the cinema. I don't know that they have so much to worry about. And I would be interested to see what you think about that as well. My reason as to why is because I've been looking really closely at what people are saying on Twitter when they see The Invisible Man being rented for, I think, $20. And a lot of people say, wow, $20 for a movie rental? Nah, not going to do it. It's way too much. Of course, that's actually like about on par for a movie ticket experience, right? Where you're going in and getting like snacks and stuff like that. And plenty of cinema tickets are actually just that expensive in and of themselves. My local Odeon cinema in the UK can cost about 14 quid at the top end for a ticket. If it's like a new release film that's in their premium strand and then it's also got 3D glasses, something like that. So that's actually not that much, and yet home consumers are really concerned about how much that costs. And that makes me think that people are less likely to pay release time costs for a streaming movie or for a VOD movie than they are for a movie in the cinemas. And that's, of course, going to mean that when movies can come out in the cinemas again, they will go out in the cinemas again, regardless of what Disney and likewise think. As for Disney releasing its stuff early on Disney Plus, I think things were probably always going to go that way. But if cinemas are currently doing okay with Amazon Studios films doing the same thing, then I don't know if that's hugely different. And for me, my big, the thing I really want to support is independent cinemas, and they tend not to make a huge amount of margin out of those films. So they tend to have smaller movies, which often don't have a window now anyway. Curzon, which is a big releaser in the UK and was recently bought by Cohen Media, which is a US cinemas chain, or distribution chain, they often release their films as day on date. So they show their films available as a video on demand on the same day that they're released in cinemas. And there's really no evidence to say that loses a lot of money, because it just means you have different streams. Curzon has not that many cinemas in the UK, so people are kind of like interested in watching the film but unable to see it. Then they will go and watch it on VOD for a similar price to what they would pay in the cinema, and that's how Curzon makes half of its cash, basically. And actually, Curzon is doing the same thing in the UK. They're supporting some independent releases that would have gone out in cinemas this week and next week. So actually, my upcoming reviews, I have a couple of reviews kind of like saved back. So I'll be able to review The Truth by Hirokazu Koreeda, the guy who did Shoplifters. I've also got a review for Vivarium, which is a really interesting little sci-fi movie. And then System Crasher as well, which is a German film that was slated to release this Friday. Obviously, none of that stuff is now coming out in cinemas, but a lot of it is going to be available on VOD. All those films that I just mentioned are going to be available on Curzon Home Cinema and a number of other platforms like BFI Player, for instance. So yeah, who knows what will happen in the future of cinema, but I'm not sure that this will be a huge issue for cinema. I think it might accelerate a curve that was already kind of taking place, where independent cinemas become more popular because they can give a kind of more singular experience than a multiplex can. But I don't think it'll be like catastrophic for the film industry. I think a lot of the bigger blockbusters will move back because they know they need to make money in cinemas. That's the only way they can make enough cash to pay themselves off. And I'm really looking at Disney there, which of course is has a lot of cash on hand, but if it misses 3 big releases, like 2 Marvel movies and the Mulan film in a row, that could be really hairy for them. I think that some kids movies will probably be the exception. We've already seen that Trolls 2, which I find so hard to call Trolls 2 because that's of course like the best worst movie of all time. Trolls 2 is going to come out on VOD, and I think that makes sense because kids will desperately want entertainment, and I think parents will be happy to pay whatever is possible to make sure those kids are entertained, especially as they're keeping them out of schools at the moment. However, I think those big summer releases will push back, like you were saying. Movie Radar, that WW84 is moving back to August. I think stuff like that will probably happen. They'll probably put out a couple of major releases, not all of those films in the backlog, but a couple of them will go out during summer. You never know, you might see more screenings than usual so that people can space out a bit more. We don't know how relaxing social distancing will go when they do decide to do it. I don't think we'll end up with like a month where every movie that was going to come out comes out at once. I think they'll space them a little bit more than that. And we might end up with a kind of nice side effect of that, where you get a richer than usual crop of movies in a kind of fallow time, something like February or March, where usually the bigger films don't come out. Might have some more big movies. Interesting to see, and we won't know that for a while, I think. So that's kind of how I feel about the changing movie landscape at the moment in a kind of potted way. How are you doing tonight? What's going on where you are, and what are your plans looking like? How do you feel about movies pushing back and stuff like that? So the next step, kind of like, and what I wanted to talk about is, it's not just that movies aren't coming out, but it's that cinemas are closed. And for some of the big chains, that might be an issue. People like Odeon and Picture House. Picture House has already laid off some of its staff, which is terrible and very much on form for them. They've always been kind of terrible to their staff. That's going to be a trouble for them because movies are not that good a business for a cinema. They kind of run on a thin profit line anyway. It's mostly to do with selling snacks more than anything else. The economics of showing a film are kind of difficult. And again, for the people I'm interested in, for independent cinemas and art house cinemas, it's really razor thin. The cost of showing a movie is like about 150 quid. And then you can kind of sell a ticket for what, £8 probably on average. So think about how many people you have to sell those tickets to get them to pay off just the cost of showing the movie, and that doesn't even cover stuff like staff wages, your marketing budget, and also your building. So you're kind of banking on being able to make some money during some boom times, and unfortunately summer is one of those boom times. So we might start to see some of those independent cinemas closing if we don't support them enough. So how can we support independent cinemas? How can we look after the places where we like to go see good movies? For me, it's all about buying gift vouchers and memberships. I know that's difficult if you don't know where your income is coming from. Currently, I'm kind of in that boat myself. So I would say kind of consider what you can do, but definitely try and support places by buying a gift card. It's a nice way of basically saying, I'm going to buy a ticket for the future, and I'm going to come back here and have a good experience once we can get back into cinemas. And a membership does the same thing, but in a much bigger way and probably a slightly more expensive way in most cases, where you can kind of say to people, I'm interested in continuing to support your organization and I want you to know that I'm here. And there's a morale part of that too as well. I think that's a kind of valuable thing to do. The other thing you can do as well is follow cinemas on Twitter. If you're not following cinemas already, they're actually a really good kind of group of people to follow because they often recommend films. Not even just the films they're showing, but stuff around the films they're showing. And they tend to advertise each other a lot, so you get to see a wider sense of how the cinema industry and film industry works. For me, I've seen a lot of cinemas advertising viewing parties and streams. There's actually a viewing party happening tonight in the UK. They're showing, I think it's My Neighbor Totoro as a Netflix party thing, which is coming from a film channel, what's it called? Yeah, which I'm really excited about, and I might go and sit and watch after this stream is done. It's just so lazy, isn't it? I'm just like looking at Twitter while you guys are on stream. Fuck, I can't find it. So embarrassing. Anyway, there's viewing parties going on everywhere, and that's actually one of the things I'd like to consider doing with you. So if you're interested in watching a viewing party, then let's have that discussion. I'm really interested to see what kind of films you want to watch. I've also seen streams coming from cinemas where they're talking about like their work, or they're kind of having a discussion, I suppose, instead of having access to the cinema, which is a nice way of keeping the community part of a lot of those smaller cinemas going. And I think that's all sort of important stuff. What you really worry about, I think, as an independent cinema, or an independent cinema liker, someone who likes going to them, you might be worried that this won't be here when you want to come back to it. And once everything goes back to normal, then how do you go back to your cinema that you like, which is a little home away from home? And I know that my life has felt a bit weird recently, for the obvious reasons, but also because I'm out of that rhythm that I'm in where I go to see a movie, once or twice a week, and I get to go and sit down in the cinema and kind of put everything away for a bit while I think about that. So that's like a tough thing to replace. And I had a really nice experience with my mates a couple of days ago where we got together on Netflix Party, which is a Chrome extension that opens a chat room and also syncs your movie watching together, so that you're all watching at the same time. And we watched Anaconda, that terrible J-Lo film, which has like this inexplicably good cast. It's got Ice Cube, J-Lo, Owen Wilson, John Voight, even Danny Trejo is in it with like no dialogue and not even a character name. So it was a really fun, terrible film to watch, and we had a really good time watching it together. And it was something about that communal experience of seeing a movie, just sitting down and watching something and focusing on it for a while, that really helped. So that's something I would like to do on stream with you guys. I would like to have a little Netflix party hangout, so you'll see some stuff coming out about that soon. I'm going to pause for a sec and just like let you guys weigh that up. Let me know what movies you're interested in watching. It'll have to be on Netflix, I think, because the extension is great when it works, which obviously it's like having a lot of pressure at the moment. But I think it would be a fun thing for us to do together. And we just got to find something that's like roughly available on most Netflixes around the world. Might have to be a Netflix original, but I'm not wild about that. I wonder if it will be a movie that I've already seen as well. My Netflix list is like looking formidable day by day, and I'm still not watching enough off Netflix to really do anything about it. Maybe we'll just watch like really clever, like Paris is Burning. Maybe we'll just sit there and like be very sensible, good people. Probably not. Movie Radar, what's Rosie? Is it the Irish film? Probably not. Hello to new viewers. Feel free to say hello and introduce yourself in the stream as well. Stay hydrated, gang. Go be healthy. I tried watching Six Underground. Maybe that's something we could watch together. It looks awful. I just find his movies the Michael Bay films, increasingly difficult to physically watch. I can't understand what's occurring in the film. I don't know, I feel like I'm a good film watcher. I watch a lot of like hardcore art films and a lot of action movies from all around the world, and I still can't understand a Michael Bay film when I watch it. It just doesn't make sense visually. Maybe we'll watch the Jean-Claude Van Damme film, The Order, which no one in my real life wants me to watch. So they won't watch it with me. I don't think they're going to stop me from watching it. But that is the kind of film you want to watch with someone, because it looks terrible. If I'm like leaning around a lot, it's because I'm looking at my Netflix list, but also like I'm literally looking through the tripod for the webcam because there's a very little space on my desk. Hi Jose, how you doing? Uncut Gems was great. I mean, and the funny thing is, if you watch it twice, the first time you watch it, it's like this thriller kind of drama. And then the second time, it's just like a straight up comedy. It's really funny and kind of like a at the expense of this nasty dude who's the main character. I wonder if we could watch Bandersnatch. I don't think Netflix Party will like that. It'd be fun to do that and just like have you guys decide what we do. I haven't actually watched Bandersnatch, so maybe we could watch Annabelle, the Conjuring universe film. I hate those movies. I think I've talked about it on this channel before, but I just can't stand what James Wan thinks is scary. And I know it's not directed by him, but it has that cinematic sensibility to it. So I just think I'm probably not going to enjoy that. Maybe it should be something really generic and cheesy like City Slickers, which I only know I have a passing familiarity with because I've watched the American Dad episode that makes fun of City Slickers. When there's weird bits of pop cultural osmosis. What about Ronin? That movie's great. And that's on Netflix. People like Ronin? Ronin's a really good film. I should really be writing these down, shouldn't I? Stuff to watch on stream with gang. Jose, if you liked Uncut Gems, maybe consider Good Time, which is another film from the same directors. It has Robert Pattinson in it. If you're excited about him being Batman, you'll love Good Time. Hi Trevor, how you doing? Nice to see you. I actually watched The King at London Film Festival. I went to my only non-press screening because my sister is a massive Timothée Chalamet fan. So I went to go see The King at London Film Festival with Chalamet kind of there in the audience. It was really good fun. The movie's good, I think. I'm not familiar particularly with Henry V, but the movie makes sense. You know, it works. And I don't know if that's like a sacrilegious thing to say about Shakespeare, if there are any Shakespeare scholars in the chat, but yeah, I thought the movie was good. It has a very good visual sense to it. The director is an interesting guy, David Nishod. I don't know if it's like Nishod or if it's I'm just like pronouncing it Mishod. Okay. It's got a little pointy hat above the O, and I don't know how that works. He's Australian. He made Animal Kingdom, which is like this horrible Australian drama, which I hadn't seen, but I had seen War Machine, which is okay. That's a Netflix film as well. I didn't watch Chernobyl, Jose. I didn't watch it. I don't have an HBO subscription, and I sometimes find watching stuff that's like super grim and very foreboding to be painful to watch. I don't know if now is the time to give that a run. Although, funnily enough, on my watch list at the moment is Kingdom, the Korean horror drama series on Netflix. Kingdom is about a secret virus spreading in a East Asian kingdom. So a little bit close to home maybe at the moment. Although luckily our current problem doesn't involve zombies, which is I could say is a blessing. Trevor, I'm glad you like Ronin. It's one of my favourite movies. It's really good. It's good go-to watch. Jose, glad you enjoyed Patterson and Defoe in The Lighthouse. Very, very interesting film. I was really lucky I got to meet Robert Eggers in a kind of masterclass that BAFTA hosted for a couple of us. I say a couple, I think there were about 10 of us, maybe 15. And yeah, he's an intense guy. He really, really knows his stuff. But he's also like, you know, he's very, very preparation focused, and he does a lot of expansive work around kind of like the look of the film and the feel of it and its tone, a lot more than a lot of directors would. And it was interesting to me because I don't know if I never really talk about this in the channel, but I'm a filmmaker myself. In fact, that's kind of what I think I do primarily. How true that is another question. But I really feel like I'm a filmmaker who happens to review films. And when I make my video essay work for the channel, it's nice to be able to interpret other people's work through a cinematic sensibility that's kind of partially mine, because I'm a viewer, not a filmmaker in that instance. So, you know, my films are not anything like Robert Eggers, and I don't think I work like him either, but it's a fantastic experience to kind of sit and talk to someone who does have that depth of understanding and in such a short time, such a distinctive experience and way of filmmaking. Yeah, it was great to talk to him about that stuff. Have you guys got Ghibli? Has everyone else got Ghibli around the world? Studio Ghibli films? Because I've started watching those. They're very, very comforting. I watched Laputa, Castle in the Sky, which was great fun. Very cool. I'm sort of hoping to work my way through those as well. Guys, what if we just watch a rom-com on the stream? What if it's just like heaven? I see the demographics in our analytics, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to go down well with my general audience. I don't want to, demographics is not destiny. I don't want to force anyone into something they don't feel comfortable in. I have a very good friend whose top 3 films are like the 2 John Wick movies that he likes, and then Legally Blonde. So, and Starship Troopers. I think that's number 1. Now that's a movie. I wish we could watch that on stream. They don't have it on UK Netflix. Do they? They don't have it on Netflix. That's a shame. Trevor, do you mean, when you say The Mask of Zorro, do you mean the Antonio Banderas film? Because I definitely remember that coming out. I would have been about 6 when it came out, but I loved Zorro. And there was this is such a weird coincidence because I've actually been working on a video about this kind of like thing, but there was a really somewhat sloppy Zorro TV show, a cartoon show that came out, I think the year after the 1998 film, but it kind of drew on some stuff that was in that, like this kind of steampunky elements, but also was not at all related to the film, and they had no ability to kind of see what the other people were working on when they're making the show. So as a kid, I watched those two things and kind of conflated them together and kind of thought of them as being the same thing, which is apparently just not true, as I found out in my research. I watched a really cute film on Netflix the other day, which is Julie and Julia. Just a really nice rom-com. Not even really a rom-com. It's just like a comedy, a soft, light comedy about cooking, French cooking. It was inspiring enough to make me go and get, from my library, the book of recipes that's heavily featured in it, classic French recipes. Unfortunately, now that there's lockdown, I can't really go out and get the ingredients that I want to cook through all 600 recipes that they've got. So you rewatching Star Trek Deep Space Nine? I recently rewatched all of Voyager, not like last year, but yeah, that was a real experience. What is Babel? I'm just Googling, like, this is such an unbelievably lazy stream. I'm just like Googling what happens in episodes of DS9 that people suggest. A virus that causes victims to speak out in gibberish. Like, not propagnosia. Oh my God. So forgetting so much at the moment. Yeah, Jose, I've never really understood why people want tiny, like, independent directors to make big budget movies. I would just like them to make more of their own films. I'm kind of disappointed that Chloe Zhao is making The Eternals, because I think she's a great filmmaker, and I'm kind of weirded out as to what she will bring necessarily to a like green screen led international, like intergenerational story, but who knows? Yeah, Ari Aster for Blade? Really? No thanks. Don't think so. There is a bit of, like, with the like people trying to put people in MCU stuff, there is just this thing to be like, I've seen one film that I thought was good, and now I'm going to think, yeah, you should be the person who makes this. I mean, in reality, when you look at the MCU stuff, it all looks the same anyway, so there's not much point really in assigning someone to direct a movie because you think it's a good fit for the character, because they all end up being the same. It doesn't make any difference. So they're in quarantine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that explains it. How is everyone doing in quarantine? We doing all right? What are we doing to keep busy? I have not seen Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu's Babel. Sorry. I'm sort of slightly mixed on his films, so I haven't watched all of them. The films I have seen, I'm like, go back and forward on. I really like Birdman. I didn't like The Revenant at all, so, you know. I feel like I've seen another film of his. Who knows? Not sure. Trevor, the problem is that if you go into the restaurant industry, everyone in that industry is both a great cook and has a drinking problem. So, yeah, I think maybe we all could come out of the same thing. I'm not leaving the house much because I don't want to. I want to leave the house as little as possible, even just for shopping. We've been quite careful about all the food we have. So, but the beer run does happen semi-occasionally. What have I been doing in quarantine? I've actually been working. The difficulty of doing how I make my living is that I film events basically for a living, and unfortunately, like, events are not happening. So I'm kind of scuppered in that respect. Luckily, I've been working on some video essays, as I had for a while beforehand, in kind of like in work with Little White Lies, for instance. I'm working with someone else at the moment. I can't talk about it just yet, but that's almost done. So that's exciting. Yeah, so I've actually been quite busy with work, and I've been watching a lot of films for that stuff. But I'm almost done, so I'm looking forward to having a couple of days where I can just sit and watch movies. I've been playing a lot of video games. My girlfriend just got Animal Crossing, so I have been roped into Animal Crossing, and I'm loving it. What a life. Thanks for recommending Blind Spotting. I remember people chatting about it a lot when it came out. It got a very small release in the UK, but yeah. Yeah, Jose, I think it's sort of similar here. Boris has basically said, do not leave, without saying that, without really explaining exactly how illegal it'll be to leave. But they are going to start, like, putting the police out to tell people not to go out. So I'm in London, where they actually will enforce that stuff, which is fine. I'm glad the government's finally decided to do something about it. So I'm just sat quietly at home, being a good boy, trying to just be chill, not lose my head, watching a lot of movies. Let me show you what my work for this quarantine is going to be. Once I've got enough paid work that I'm not feeling worried about it or whatever, this is what I'm going to be doing for the next foreseeable future. Can you see that? Can you see my terrible, weird, diverse taste in movies? This is my half of my to-watch pile, fully just half. The other half is in the other room. And these are all movies I'm going to sit down and watch. There's a couple I've already seen. Interstellar, I want my girlfriend to see it. Eternal Sunshine, I want my girlfriend to see it. And The Box, I want my girlfriend to see it. But the rest of them I don't think I've seen. I've seen Afterlife and Nobody Knows. But they're always worth a rewatch because Corriere is great. Yeah, so I've got even more in the other room, and that's just what I'm going to be working on for a while. I've also got to watch every single film that Jane Campion ever made for a job, so that's its own problem. The additional thing that I'm dealing with is I'm going to be moving house in a couple of weeks, supposedly, if possible. I don't know if the lockdown we're literally not even sure if that's allowed during this lockdown. But I'm only going to be moving with the people I already live with, so it's hopefully not an issue. We'll have to see. But yeah, now I've got to get used to the idea of moving, which also means there'll be a little bit of a pause in making videos for the channel while I work out a spot that I can sit in and light properly and looks nice enough and is quiet enough and I can use regularly enough. Hopefully that won't be too long a wait. I have some other content in the meantime that'll be going up. Yeah, I'm glad you like Eternal Sunshine. That's one of my favourite movies. It was a very important movie to me as a teenager, for sure. I actually have a video that I shot a while back that I just haven't put out, that I'm going to put out soon, about my DVD collection and how I built up what I have. Sort of a strange video because it's just me talking about buying DVDs. Do you know what? I'm going to go into the other room and show you my other selection actually as well. I'm back. This is the other selection of DVDs that I have to watch. So we've got Delicatessen. You can see the rest of them, I think. That's the Straight Story, the David Lynch film, the most normal one. Quite excited. That's Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, the Almodovar film. It is a bit of a weird mix of stuff. I just like to have an interesting mix of things. I don't think people should stick to the same type of film as much as possible. Gives you a nice wide variety of stuff to watch. See more people coming in. Hi, how you doing? How's everyone doing on the stream? Hey Phil, how you doing? Nice to see you. I was just chatting about you in a good way. You're going to watch Phone Booth. Why don't you follow Phone Booth up with Cellular? Because they are the same film. Trevor, is Thailand not very good? I'm kind of like... I was a huge Terry Gilliam fan as a kid, and I feel like he's gone off the boil. So I just sort of want to be a completionist about it. Dr. Parnassus is actually somewhere in my Blu-ray pile. I haven't watched it on Blu-ray, but I saw it at the cinema when it came out. So yeah, the lockdown is proving why physical media has some importance, I think. I'm really glad that Netflix has reduced the definition. I'm not actually clear if they've reduced it down to 720 from 1080 or if they're just changing the bitrate. But I'm glad that they're doing it because it'll help the internet kind of stay afloat. And most people don't care. A lot of people aren't even watching it in HD, so that's fine. I'm really glad though also that I have my Blu-rays and I have some interesting stuff that I can look at. I'm excited to show Phoebe a very nice transfer of Blu-ray of Interstellar. So I think it's a good quality one. Yeah, Infernal Affairs, I haven't seen it yet. Really looking forward to it. I love that kind of stuff. I've actually just finished watching, slightly different thing, but I've finished watching loads of Korean films for another video. Lots of kind of Korean action and crime movies that are all from the same period. They're all from the kind of boom in Korean cinema that happened in the late 90s, early noughties. And my sort of journey into film watching as a teenager largely coincided with that boom because I was like... I would have been like 14 in 2004. Yeah, so that's when we started watching kind of like 18s and stuff we could get. And a lot of the kind of like niche and cool stuff that was coming out was these Korean movies a couple of years after they were made, coming over to the UK, mostly through Tartan Extreme. Yeah, so that is actually a Tartan Asia Extreme, that one. Yeah, so that was kind of like a wonderful time, and it's been nice to revisit those movies. I also really like Tony Leung. I think he's a really fucking good actor. Just like very high quality dude. Jose, the same problem in the UK, it's basically possible to get Memories of Murder. The plus side you have in America is that there was a Criterion Blu-ray made of Memories of Murder that came out a while ago. But you might still be able to find that in like secondhand places. In the UK, that's like 120 quid for the DVD, so not doing that. Yeah, Trevor, I am going to watch all of the Jane Campion stuff, including In the Cut. I really like Jane Campion. I've seen only The Piano and Top of the Lake, and also some of her, sort of like parts of her other films. Yeah, she's an interesting filmmaker, and I feel like I'm excited to see what people don't like about her work. My feeling on her is that she is always making films about the same couple of things, which are mostly about kind of conversations around power and sexuality, and kind of how the ways in which women might carve out space for themselves in a world that's fundamentally not attuned to them being in it. I can see why that might not be a good film sometimes. Like sometimes that might not be comfortable. Certainly not comfortable. Maybe not good. But I'm interested to see what those movies look like. Tony Leung, who is in Infernal Affairs, movie radar, if you're interested in knowing, is in a really, really good movie that's like impossible to find, but if you can get a hold of it, fantastic film, which is called, is it A City of Violence? I always get confused with another, no, The City of Violence, something else. It's a Hao Xiaoxian film, and forgive me that I'm not having this information to hand. A City of Sadness. There you go. That's a Tony Leung film, and it is super good. It's a phenomenal movie, but incredibly difficult to find. It's kind of the it's the story of all of the problems that Taiwan had over the course of like a very limited but very difficult period of Taiwanese history, when they were kind of being taken over. The Japanese lost Taiwan, and then other people came in, and just a lot of people died in kind of political unrest, and it's this really powerful telling of that story, and it spans about a decade, I think. Hao Xiaoxian, if you haven't seen his movies, he's amazing. He's probably the best filmmaker who you consistently cannot get films from. He's well known for a movie called Flowers of Shanghai. I really like his movie Millennium Mambo. Yeah, highly recommend getting hold of his stuff if you can. He did a film called A Time to Live and A Time to Die as well, which is like incredibly slow but very interesting. There's sort of some interesting stuff in it. Yeah, I like his movies a lot. So folks, I'm going to start wrapping up in about 10 minutes. I'm going to go in 10 minutes, so I'm going to start wrapping up in about 5 minutes. If there's anything else you want to talk about, then let's have that chat. But I just wanted to briefly update you with the channel and what I'm doing during the period where movies aren't coming out, basically. I think some movies will continue to come out, and they'll come out on demand. Where I can review those, I will. Like I said, money is kind of a problem at the moment, so I don't really want to plug my Patreon to you, so I'm not going to. But yeah, money's a bit of an issue, so maybe I won't be able to review stuff when it comes out straight away. What I will hopefully be able to do for you instead is kind of give some other content over. There's 2 bits of like very, very not standard content that I've made that I think you'll really enjoy. And then I've also got a number of things like the second kind of block of Films with Friends episodes will be coming out hopefully soon. And I'm kind of trying to think non-traditionally about what I can cover. I don't want to just cover Netflix because it kind of gives over the impression that movies have just stopped existing and Netflix is the only thing that's happening. There are a couple of interesting Netflix films coming up. I really want to review a film called Tiger Tail, which is it's a Taiwanese intergenerational story. It's by the guy who produced, I want to say, maybe showran, Master of None, which should be interesting. And then we'll have to see, really. I mean, everything else on my calendar has kind of been pushed back, so not clear. But I'll let you know as soon as I know what I'm going to do about this stuff. And in the meantime, I have 3-ish movies that I've kind of like got to see at press screenings or in advance that are coming out. So I'm going to review those over the next week or so. I'm also moving house, like I said, so there's going to be like a little bit of natural pause anyway in the content while I do that. Trevor, I'm really interested in seeing Angel at My Table, but as far as I'm aware, it doesn't exist on home video, especially not in the UK. I actually have a friend who's like a Campion scholar, and she writes a lot about Jane Campion, and then she's moved now into more generally Australian and New Zealander period cinema. So she recommended to me recently my Beautiful Education or something like that. My Brilliant Career. She introduced me to a film called My Brilliant Career, which was made by someone who actually went to the same film school as Jane Campion, just a couple of years after her. And My Brilliant Career is fab. It has very early Sam Neill in it. It was made in 1979. It's directed by Gillian Armstrong, who's made bucket loads of stuff. And yeah, she made The Little Women that came out in the 90s as well. But unfortunately, Angel at My Table is not available, as far as I know. So if you know differently, please let me know. My Campion scholar friend was completely incapable of getting it because... And if she can't get it, then really, I don't think anyone can. Do I like Peter Strickland? I have a mixed relationship with Peter Strickland's work. I think he's a really, really interesting filmmaker who works very hard at a very specific thing. And I'm sort of like mixed on it because... Okay, here's my thing. I haven't seen In Fabric. I have seen 2 of his films. He's made 4 films now. His first film isn't very well known, but is it Kathleen Varga? Yeah, Kathleen Varga, 2009, which is like a really small film, Hungarian, I think, in Hungarian language, yeah. So I've seen... Barbarian Sound Studio, and I've seen The Duke of Burgundy. When I was at university, my research specialism, one of the things I did a long essay on, not just a normal essay, I did a half-length dissertation for one of my units, and it was about Giallo, the 1970s, predominantly 1970s Italian horror genre, and that's also what Barbarian Sound Studio is about. So watching Barbarian Sound Studio, I was really annoyed because I felt like it was using some of the good stuff of Giallo and also not really engaging with it in the way that I thought it should. Maybe I'll feel differently now. That was like a decade ago. But yeah, I didn't like Barbarian Sound Studio. And then Duke of Burgundy came out and I thought it was pretty good. But I had almost the opposite problem where I didn't know enough about what he was pastiching to really get most of what the movie was about. So I was kind of confused for most of the runtime, and I did find myself falling asleep. Movie Radar. I don't think I'll be subscribing to Disney Plus. I might try the 2-week free trial, but I'm not interested particularly in paying Disney any more money than I already do. Yeah, as much as I'm like, it's cool that big movies come out, I really resent the fact that Disney is bought up and is now restricting access to most of the back catalogue of movies, of American movies for sure. So yeah, I'm not really happy about it. Sorry. I think I will probably watch some of the stuff on there. I don't think I'll watch much of their original content. It doesn't really appeal to me. I'm also really bad at watching TV shows. So if the big draw of a streaming service is like it has The Mandalorian on it, or it'll have the Marvel TV shows on it, then I probably don't care. It's a shame. I'm not snooty about TV. I think some TVs are really, really good, but I find that I don't have the time to watch it, or I find it hard to make the time to watch it. The only TV I watch is a half-hour comedy show at the start of basically every day when I have breakfast, just to like sit there and keep me company with my cornflakes or whatever. And otherwise I just can't sit down and pay attention for that long, because I find myself wishing I was watching a movie instead. There are so many movies I haven't seen, and there's new movies coming out all the time, although not as much at the moment, unfortunately. And so, yeah, I if it's like watching a drama series that's like, even a British drama series, it's only six episodes. I just don't want to sit down and watch 6 hours worth of content for something that I might not like. So I'd rather watch 3 movies in that time. Trevor, I have seen Amma. Yeah, I actually, one of the first films I got to write a review for a, I think now defunct website called Screen Geeks UK, was for a film called The Strange Colour of Your Body's Tears, which is the second film from the couple, the husband and wife, I think, that made Amma. So they're called Helena, Bruno Cattet and Helena Forzani. They also made a film in the ABCs of Death, and they have a new film out a couple of years ago, it was last year, which is got a really funny title. It's a pastiche not of giallo but of Polizietti films, or Polizietti, I can't remember, which are basically like hard-boiled detective, corrupt detectives thrillers, kind of a forerunner to Dirty Harry. They made a movie, God, what was it called? Let the Corpses Dry? Let the Corpses Tan. There you go. Yeah. Which is like, looks wild, and I haven't had a chance to see it. All of the right people told me they didn't like it, so that's sometimes a good sign, I find. Steve, I don't torrent films. Yeah. If they're not available in the UK, then I just wait until I can watch them at some point. I'm lucky enough to live in London, so I have access to very good cinemas. And to give you an example of that, the film I mentioned earlier on, A City of Sadness, it's a phenomenal film. It was made in 1989. It's only available in home cinema, as far as I can understand it, on a VHS. I think it was an Artificial Eye VHS or a Criterion VHS or something like that, that was released ages ago, so not great. And I'd always wanted to see it. It's one of my brother's favourite films. And it's quite difficult to get hold of for all those reasons. And then last year, the brilliant little independent cinema / DVD library, Close Up Cinema in Sclater Street in London, just near Brick Lane, had a screening series of Taiwanese films. So they were showing Edward Yang's work and also Hao Xiaosen's work, and they showed A City of Sadness. And to tell you how hard that film is to get hold of, that it was shown on film, and the print had the temporary license that you get when you show a film at a festival at the start of it. And that license was given in November 1989, which means it's probably the same print that played at the BFI London Film Festival when the film premiered in Europe in 1989 at the London Film Festival. So that's how hard it is to get hold of a version of that movie. But it's worth waiting, I think. Yeah, it's worth waiting. And I do find that most films are available somehow, somewhere, between Mubi, BFI player, and home video. Pretty much most stuff is available. But I'd love it if people just started putting online better stuff in a kind of more accessible way. I wish we had the Criterion channel in the UK. That's something I would sign up to. And Trevor, yeah, you're right. True Detective Series 1 was great, and it is probably the best single series of TV I've ever watched. So great. We're coming up to the end of this now, gang. Thanks so much for everyone checking in and kind of being a part of the conversation. I've got two more things I wanted to run by you that I wanted to do before, during this lockdown period. It's been lovely having a chat, and I was kind of thinking about it when all these people are doing Zoom hangouts. It'd be nice to do a face-to-face chat. So I was thinking about we could have a Zoom room that we join on a preordained occasion. And yeah, I thought that'd be fun. So if you're interested in doing that, I'll share a Zoom thing, and we'll pick a date at some point. I'm assuming most people's evenings are pretty free at the moment because we're not allowed to leave and we can't do anything during the day or during the evening. So I'm going to do that. And then also the other thing I was thinking about that would be fun is having a pub quiz. I miss going to the pub quiz. I used to go to the pub quiz every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, and I can't go anymore. I haven't actually gone for a while, but yeah, that was last year. I was like constantly going all the time and it was sick, and now I can't. So I would like to do a movie pub quiz, and I was thinking that I would be the quiz master, and we can all get in there and have a chat. You guys can do all your own workings, and then we'll have to work out a way of marking, which I haven't really considered until this very moment. So hold tight on that, but there might be an interactive way we can do a pub quiz, like a Google form or something like that. That'd be great, wouldn't it? So yeah, I'd love to do that. And then, I don't know, I guess we'll have to pick a prize. I could probably send off some Blu-rays or something. It's probably doable once the quarantine's lifted. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up, gang. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure as ever. And don't be a stranger. Keep watching the stuff on the channel when it does come out. And yeah, look after yourselves. Stay safe and stay indoors. You gotta stay indoors. Okay. I'm so proud of myself. I made all these animations and I've left them all to not be used. I wonder if I should save them for a later stream. Oh yeah, I'm going to stream more in general. I'm probably going to do it once a week just because it's nice to have some other human content. It's nice to have chats about this kind of stuff. Jesus Christ, this is great. Really enjoying this stuff. Hey, Trevor, are you kidding me that you can get Angel at the Table on? I'm thinking about Sweetie. Sorry, that's what I'm thinking about. Which is, I think, her first film. I see. So there's an NTSC DVD on Amazon. Okay. Maybe I will put it on my list then. Okay. Exciting. Thanks. I'm interested in reading more about Janet Frame as well. Sounds cool. Bye, gang. Have a good one. Look after yourselves.